48-hour art check. Round 10, right?
Yes.
Week 4,
Yes.
round 10. Well, fancy meeting you here, Josh.
I know it's a strange occurrence. It seems like we keep bumping into each other.
Yeah, do you come here often? So, yeah. So that was a crazy week last week. And
Yeah.
you were like pulling like major overtime today. So this is like marathon day for you.
Yeah, for sure. I literally got home like an hour ago. So yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Okay, should we kick it off?
Let's do it.
Okay, why don't you start out? What did you get done in the last 2 days?
All right. So I did a little bit more actually like was getting pretty good progress, and I finished the tight pencils on the next page of quarterly stories, and then managed to do the borders and the lettering. So I should be able to have that hopefully inked soon. And then I was going to tackle more, but there's this film project that is kind of in negotiations right now, and so I actually had to watch the film multiple times to kind of take notes and stuff on what I would do. And it's still kind of in this bidding stage, so although I don't think anybody else is bidding, it's just more of a budget question. So we'll see how that goes. And then it was just crazy chaotic at work, but I feel pretty good about what I got done.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I got quite as far as I wanted, but I did predict that panel up top would be a beast, and it was. It took a really long time to kind of finish that,
That's
and
super
it's going to
detailed.
take. Yeah, it's going to take a while to ink too, but I think it'll actually go faster inking, and maybe you can attest to this, but I actually find that I'm a little quicker at inking like by hand than I am inking digitally.
Yeah, for me that's true with the exception of filling in large portions of black. Like, because that's just monotonous. And then you can just
Yeah,
do it
there's
with like a lasso tool in Photoshop. But
yeah, there's no like magic wand or lasso tool and just a little expand by 1 pixel and fill. You know, like
right, yeah,
you can't do that with a brush.
yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, I'll hold my question on that for the
oh,
next round. But I
okay,
do. We should remind me to ask a question about filling blacks because it's actually a pretty interesting one.
okay, yeah.
All right.
I'm
So
I'm
what'd
interested.
you get done?
So I was not exactly sure whether I was going to be able to do this or not. Um, last Before Friday, I finished 2 full-page inks, so that's like two 11 by 17 pages. And on Friday, I said that my goal was to attempt to try to get 2 more pages done, and I actually did get those done, and took the time to video them because it was like crazy detail. So you can see like the two main characters there. There's a reflection in the water, and then there's like I looked up like specific types of plants in different parts of Japan and tried to match like the leaves. And I found like a new way of I kind of like came up with a new way of inking bonsai tree leaves, which I really like. There's some wisteria up top. And then that frickin' forest that took forever. And I was worried that I was gonna like, I don't know, I was worried that I was gonna like overdo it or have it just be like this wash of black. But it turned out pretty good. And so this is actually this page marks the most productive I've ever been on any project since I've been doing art, because I was able to do 4 pages in 1 week. And I actually, my wife and daughter were out of town, which is why I was able to do it. But I was actually able to wrap up, like I put the last stroke on right as they came in, like Sunday night at 11 o'clock. So, yeah, so that's kind of what I got. kind of what I got
That's
done. I'm like
that's really nice. I like the scale.
overflowing with pride.
Yeah, I like the scale of that a lot.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, and I want to hear about that brush technique. Um, all right, so should we get into sort of?
Yeah. So, what did you struggle with?
All right, struggles right now. The main ones. Well, one thing I definitely struggled with that first panel, and for me, and this is just like a hard learned lesson, I guess, that took me a long time in art. Um, I'm not great at doing backgrounds, but I put backgrounds in everything, and I'm not great at doing establishing shots, but I do establishing shots whenever necessary.
Yeah.
Um, and so the trick to it for me is it just takes time. So I just I've gotten quicker at them, but they're still really time consuming, and doing all of that just ruled line work and stuff is kind of a headache. But the other struggle,
it paid off. That was, I mean, it looks great.
thank you. I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the like getting them inked, you know.
Yeah.
Um, I think my biggest struggle right now is just like it really is just you know, we're in rush season at my work, which is really exhausting because even if you only work like 8 hours, if you're familiar with, well, of course you're familiar with it, but if anybody watching is familiar with like a creative agency or anything like that, when you're working in a design team and it's in the peak of rush, which is going to last for us probably like another 3 months.
Oh my gosh, that's a long season.
Yeah, it's a very long season. And so it's kind of partially why, like when we used to have like in-house freelancers, we'd have them in for like 6 months straight.
Right.
But yeah, when you're in the like peak of it and the thick of it, it's just hard to retain energy because you're firing on all cylinders at work, and then you get home and it's hard to kind of keep it up. So that's my big challenge, is just kind of trying to maintain energy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to run over my time, but one thing that helped with that was adding exercise back into my schedule, which I started doing about 3 or 4 days ago.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because I don't feel exhausted all the time to the level I usually do, and I have a little boost of energy. And so even during this, you might have noticed I was like drinking like a little smoothie or whatever because I managed to squeeze in a workout right before.
Oh wow!
So that's gonna give me energy to work on, you know, hopefully starting to attack that first panel.
Now, are you still doing the rowing machine, or are you mostly doing yoga now?
Mostly the rowing machine at this point, and then yoga I want to bring back in because it's really beneficial. So
right. Yeah, I need to do that. I bought a rowing machine. I was really consistent with it for long enough to get like a slight injury because I was doing it wrong, and then I used that as an excuse to not do anything for a month. So
oh no.
Yeah, so I think I want to actually incorporate working out into this, because if I'm reporting on it, I'm more likely to do it. Because mainly I just don't want to buy new pants. That's kind of my goal. But yeah, and for anybody watching, if you haven't been in a rush season in any type of art department, like it's normally in an 8-hour day, you're putting in like 2 to 4 hours of like solid work, but in a rush season, you're putting in 8 hours of work. It's like a mentally and emotionally exhausting. So I've been there, and that's nuts. I can't believe it goes on for 3 months. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty hardcore. So most people would use that as an excuse to come home and watch, The Wire for 14 seasons in a row.
Well, I have been watching The Wire.
Yeah, that's why I called that out
as well.
That's good. That's good.
Nice.
So for me, my struggle this weekend is so stupid, and I went on a giant rant, and I'm going to try really hard not to go on a rant. But let me say that the American obsession with lawns is the dumbest, stupidest waste of time, money, and resources that we do for no reason other than you don't want your neighbors to be pissed at you. And so I have been neglecting my lawn, and it is a healthy lawn, and so it was like 2 feet tall, and it was like started to like sprout the little wheat head things at the top, and I was like, all right, this is gone on too long, because it had been raining. We had like a flood warning and like tornado warnings for like a couple weeks, and so I keep saying, oh, like, you know, the first day that it doesn't rain, I'll just mow then, and it's rained every day for a couple weeks, which I was grateful for, because then I had like an excuse. Somehow my neighbors are all mowing the lawns. But anyway, Saturday it was sunny and nice, and so I tried to start my lawnmower, which took over 2 hours to get going, because I don't know anything about anything. And I grew up in California, and now I live in this place in Idaho that is like covered in snow for half the year. And so in California, you never stop mowing your lawn. But here, you like put it away for like 6 months. And so I didn't know you had to winterize it. And so like I had to clean out the carburetor, which I didn't even know what the carburetor was. And so like I'm like talking to my neighbors and stuff, and they're helping me. Anyway, so I finally get it started after 2 hours of doing that. And then because it's so freaking long, it took me 3.5 hours to mow the front part of my lawn. Not even, because I live on like a 1/3 acre. And so it was so dumb. It was so stupid. And I finally just said, this is dumb. And I don't like paying people to do stuff like that, mainly because it's a waste of money and they just charge so much money. But I finally called some guy up that had knocked on my door a month ago, and I was like, all right, just come finish this, please. And then it was, and he had like a riding lawnmower, and he did it in like a couple hours, but it still took him like 2 more hours. Anyway, so that was the biggest struggle. I had something else, but I can't remember, and I've gone like way over time. But yeah, like I like stayed up Friday night, you know, late to like prep for this weekend that I was going to go and do and everything, and I was super excited about it. And so I slept in because there's nobody home and there's no reason to get up or whatever, and I knew I was going to pull like a late night all day Saturday. And so I got up around like 11:30 or something, because I stayed way up. And then I wasn't able to get started on the pages until about 7 at night because of my lawn. And the only reason that I care about my lawn at all is I don't want to be that a-hole on the block that doesn't take care of their house.
Oh, it's so true though. So this is something I always try to remember, because when my wife and I first moved here, it was so surreal to me, because I've been an illustrator for a long time, right, and just never on my radar was the idea that we'd ever buy a house. Like I always assumed we'd just be like renting and have apartments and stuff. So I remember that first day I mowed my own lawn, and it was just the weirdest, like coolest experience. And I hate mowing lawns, but it was like, this is my lawn. Like,
I own this.
Yeah. And it felt really good. And it probably lasted about 2 weeks. And then like, it literally is that same struggle every time. And I do like, but it is one of those things, kind of like this 48-hour art check, where it's like, you know, if you maintain the lawn, it's like it goes pretty smooth. If you let it go,
you don't have to do the chomp method where you go up and then
oh yeah, the chomp, and then a rock gets under there and you're just in trouble.
So fun fact, since I was so angry, I did research, because that's what normal people do when they're angry, right? 2% of the surface area of the 48 states, continental 48 in America, 2% of it, that includes like the Grand Canyon and all of Nevada, right? 2% is lawns. 1% is pavement. It's like twice the amount of pavement that we have, which includes like New York, right? And so it is a ridiculous waste of, and it all started in the subdivision in New York, where they built homes, and in the thing they were like, in the covenants or whatever, like they're like, you have to mow this once a week, like, and that became the standard. But like grass isn't normally an inch tall, And so we've like developed and built this weird ideal that kind of throws back to like this worship of the rich, because it's sort of a throwback to like golf culture, which is a whole other thing that pisses me off. And oh man, I'm still mad. I was so angry. So I actually started looking at like lawn replacements, and I am going to kill my lawn and rip it up, and I'm going to plant moss. It grows out. It doesn't grow up. You never have to mow it. It's still green, and if nobody gets close to my house, it'll look just like a lawn, and I don't care.
I love it.
So awesome. There's my probably 6-minute rant. That was.
I love it though. It was worth it. All right, let's get into plans.
Okay. What are your plans before Wednesday?
I'm pretty sold on this moss thing.
Yeah. Kill the lawns. Down with the lawns.
I'm supportive of this. You know, it's not a bad idea. So my plan is to hopefully get this page, like I'm gonna hope for at least 2 panels by the next time we check in. I really also am hoping to close with this client, or have it go away, because it's a good potential client. It's an interesting project, but it's just it's starting to get to that point of just like a lot of time invested.
Yeah, and this stage of that is always so frustrating, because it's like you don't know whether it's going to go through, and you've already invested a ton of work, and you start to kind of begrudge the like back and forth.
Yes.
Yeah. So I get that.
But it's like I do, I remind my employees of this too. It's like, one of the beauties of working is like, regardless, you're kind of on the clock. So that's good.
Yeah.
So it's like, in this case, it's like, I'll charge for this stuff, right. But it's just like, it is one of those things where I'm hoping we'll figure out whether we're going to pull the trigger or not on it.
Yeah. I hope that works out. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, at least that way I can plan for it. And then I think there's another band practice before our next recording and gig.
Cool.
So we have like a gig in July, and that's pretty much my plans, my art plans.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What about you? What's your plans?
Oh man, I was kind of dreading this question because I have no idea. Like, I pushed so hard that I actually Sunday I had to do this thing, and I know that I'm pushing too hard when I have to do this thing where I set these little goals. Have you ever been like hiking and you're like, once I make it to that bush up there, I'm gonna get a drink of water? You set these like little stupid rewards. I was totally doing that. Like by the end of the day Sunday, because I had gone like all day Saturday and then all day Sunday, and so I started to do this thing where I was like, all right, after I finish this forest, I'm going to play Rocket League for 30 minutes. And I set it like a timer, and I'd play for 30 minutes, and then I'd come back. And so, like, by the time I woke up this morning, having finished that, I was super excited, but I was also... My main goal is not to do that stupid, like, victory lap of no productivity that I typically do at the end of something like a big push like this. So, something I've noticed is that I'm really bad at drawing faces and facial expressions. So I'm going to start incorporating that into my routine. I'm going to start to draw a couple of heads every day, because that's how I got like passable at drawing like the figures. I just did it a lot. And so I'm going to start like incorporating that. And then I'm just, I've got several other pages. Let's see, is it 3 weeks now? I've got about 3 weeks before I need to have this thing completed. And so I need to stay on track, because that last week put me ahead. I need to get 2 pages done a week. And so I would like to get at least the pencils completed of an entire spread, so that I can be able to ink that by the end of the week. So that's kind of draw some heads, not lose momentum, and get some pencils done is kind of my plan for the next 2 days.
Nice. And don't burn out. Those are are 3.
Yes, not burning out.
Because I throw that on there, because I have a similar tactic with art where it's like, and this is actually a good tip for anybody who's like working on something where they're having trouble kind of staying with it. dividing it into little sections with goals and rewards is
Yeah.
brilliant. So that's how I've been watching The Wire. Honestly, it's like when
Right.
I finish like drawing this figure, I can watch 10 minutes of an episode of The Wire,
Yep.
and then I got to work for another 40 minutes, and then when
Yeah.
I've worked for 40 minutes and finished this thing, then I can watch another 10 minutes. So it's like, I think that's really cool you mentioned that because
Yeah, and it's really good. Also, a tip that on top of that tip, a double tip squared, is do that activity standing up. So whatever it is. So I have like this little balance pad thing for my back. I don't know if you've seen these, but they're awesome.
smart.
Yeah, and
So your break is standing up.
so my
Smart.
break is standing up, and so that does two things. One, I can't do it too long because it's kind of exhausting just to stand right for that long. It's kind of like having a meeting. Like a standing meeting is always quicker than a sitting meeting. Because if I like settle into my reclining chair to play a video game, that's me for the night. I'm gonna do that for 6 hours, right? But if I'm like standing there on a balance pad, that's gonna limit that time. Then in addition to that, like I am trying to avoid like a slipped disc or whatever, like a lot of those injuries that you hear about with illustrators who are at the desk for long periods of time. And so like the main thing that they say is change position and get up and move every once in a while. So if you're going to do a huge stint like this, this is perfect is you break it up. You're like, okay, I'm going to push until this point, and then once I finish this figure or that forest or that, panel or whatever, then I'm going to do whatever little reward I want. You limit it with time and do it standing, and then you'll get your change of position. It'll help your back, and it's a little bit of a break. And so
Yeah, I like the idea of implementing standing. It's also good for retaining your focus for the long game because, like, what I've found is if I try to power through like a panel, like this complex panel is going to require a couple breaks just to get through. And if I try to just power through it, what I'll find is like about midway to like towards the end, I'll just start gunning it, just to get it done.
Yeah.
And it's like at that point you kind of lose focus at the quality. But like looking at the pages that you've created, it looks like you've retained quality kind of throughout and detail throughout. And I bet a lot of that is through that kind of moderating and ebb and flow and stuff. That's cool.
Oh yeah. No, there was a particular point right in the middle of that forest where, I'm literally just drawing every single tree. There's probably a better way to do it, but I haven't figured it out yet. So I was drawing every single tree in this forest, and it's like a foot wide by like 4 inches tall of just like, and so about halfway to 3/4 of the way through, I felt myself like speeding up, and I was like, no, because that's when I'm just gonna like turn the brush to the side and just start scribbling. And so I was like, okay, I can't do that because I'll just ruin it, and then I'll have to do this whole page again. And so at that point in time, I would either take a break, and if I take a break before the goal, that break is going to be like an hour and a half of me making a sandwich, kind of wandering around the house, But if I'm like, no, just slow down, you're almost done. If you finish this, then you can get your reward for half an hour or whatever. And so knowing that I was going to have an actual break rather than like a procrastinating, wasting time break, allowed me to kind of like take a breath and slow down and finish well.
Yes.
And so it was really good. And I do this with grading because grading is the worst. I hate it. It is absolutely terrible. And I'm like, okay, 3 more things, 3 more crits, and then I'll whatever. So then I come back. Anyway.
I love it. I love it. It's another byproduct of that too that I've noticed is like then when I have my break, I'll be like 5 or 10 minutes into a TV show or something and be like, I gotta get back, back to like because you've started to kind of like get in this flow where it's like you're kind of killing it with getting stuff done, and you take a break, you put pause on that, and it's like the creative in you I think usually is like, oh, I gotta get back to that, which makes for interesting relaxation.
Right. Yeah. So
cool.
The real relaxation happens when the page is done. The productive relaxation is kind of those little breaks. But
yep.
So anyway,
Love it.
Yeah. Let's go.
All right.
We've gone way over. I'm almost
Yes.
certain.
I love it though. I think we've covered on some really good things. Everybody go replace your lawns and
Yes.
take breaks.
Lawns are stupid. Lawns are dumb. Yeah. So yeah, that's great. Yeah, every once in a while we did discuss doing kind of a longer version. We didn't intend for that to be this one, but I think we are going to do, whether that be monthly or whenever we have a moment to kind of just let it go instead of cutting it short. So
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and I think when we do that, we'll do more of like a long game perspective. So like,
right.
Check-ins are kind of our where are we at right now? Where do we foresee ourselves like by the next point? And maybe the longer ones can be like, okay, let's step back. Where are we in a year? Where are we in a month?
Yeah.
Take that longer game view.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Oh,
I'll come back.
Sorry, we got to mention.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Chris and
yes.
Why?
Marshall.
Marshall. Yeah. Chris and Marshall also jumped in and started doing this, and theirs is really interesting because Chris is in Australia, I believe, right? And Marshall is not, and so they're like on the other side of the world, so they have to do it at a really. Both of them were kind of struggling to be up early and late. One was up early, one was up late. But it was fascinating, and it was a really interesting episode, and so I'm looking forward to that. And so now there's 6 of us that we are aware of that are doing this challenge or some form of this challenge. So
join us.
Yeah,
Okay,
do it. Get a little pocket watch or something.
Ooh,
So yeah, check those guys out. Maybe we will link to somewhere eventually. I think we'll have a page where I'll list everybody who I'm aware of that is doing this challenge. And there's always the 100s Facebook page. So Josh, his work can be found at quarterlystories.com. And if you want to see the pages that are preceding the one that you've seen him work on this last week, they are all up for free on quarterlystories.com and available on Tapas if you like to do the mobile dealio. You can find my work at corykerr.com, and I've got video pages there, stickers, lots of fun things that you can kind of take a look at. And most of the stuff that's on my site is actually digitally colored, so if you get tired of looking at my boring inks, then you can go check out my site and see some more colors. And then a special shout out to No Saboteurs, Josh's band, for licensing us the intro music, and we will catch you guys later.